Well, it's Friday Night Live. It's my second time doing this. And tonight I'm going to talk about the one daily ritual, excuse me, the one daily ritual that I do that changed my life completely. And it doesn't cost anything. And I'm just going to first tell you a little story about how I came to the point where I started doing this daily ritual, just to give you some context. And it really started in, I guess it was 2004. I was pregnant with my son, and I went to the bookstore. I was looking in the self-help section because my cousin was in jail, and I've always been like a letter writer to anyone I know that's in jail. You know, grew up with family members and friends going to jail, juvie and jail, and always wrote letters. And you hear about it a lot, that people really appreciate getting letters in jail. So when my cousin was in jail, I used to send him, like back then, I don't even know if you can do it anymore, but I could send him $5. I could send him books, letters, whatever. So I went to the bookstore one day and I was looking for a book to, do something for him. I thought he's bored. He could read something, maybe something that would actually like improve his life in some way. And I was looking at the different books, and how I usually pick a book is I grab a book, I pull it off the shelf, I open middle, some random page, and then I read and I see if it catches my attention. And if it doesn't, I put it down and then I pick up a different book. And so I picked up a few books and put them back down. And then I picked up a book and I opened it and I started reading, and it caught my attention like completely right away. And I was like, this is so good. So I was like, okay, this is the one I'm going to get. And I bought it. And then I went home, big pregnant me with my books. I went home and I was going to put a letter together and a little package together to send my cousin. But I thought I would just read a little more first because it was so good. So I opened it up and I started at the beginning and skimmed a little bit and got to another part. And next thing you know, I can't put the book down. It's just so good. It's changing me. It's having like this profound impact on me, this self-help book. And I'm like, I can't give this book up. I have to go back to the store. So I went back to the store the next day and I bought 2 more of the exact same book. And I gave one to my brother and sent one to my cousin who was in jail. And kept the original book that I was reading because I already turned down the pages. I am a corner turner downer, which upsets my daughter. She can't stand that. She's a bookworm like me, but she likes to put a bookmark in. But I digress. The book was called There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And I've reread that book so many times since then. But the most profound impact that book had on me was it made me realize that I was constantly agitating and trying to control everything around me and everyone around me. I was trying to control what was happening in my life. I was trying to control my partner, my children, my friends would come to me, tell me their problems. And I'd be like, if they would just listen to me, then everything would be fine and their lives would be so much better, because I truly, sincerely believe that I knew better than everyone else. And that I was obligated to try and force people to do what I thought they should do for their own good. Does this sound familiar? Kind of like COVID and a tyrannical government, this is for your own good. Anyway, excuse me. And that's what I was like. And that book made me realize that not only was it not very nice and not very respectful to try and control everybody around me and get really upset when my life was out of control or things didn't go my way or things weren't in, the way I thought they should be. I realized that that's not really right, But I also realized that it wasn't my responsibility, that everyone else is responsible for their own lives. And that was actually a relief in a lot of ways. You know, that book, like there were so many things in that book. Another thing that it talked about was how, you know, if like your own child or your own parent or your own sibling does something really fucked up, and you take it on, you're ashamed, you're embarrassed, you want to hurt them, you want to punish them, you want to like force them never to do anything like that again. And Wayne Dyer in that book taught me and made me realize that what other people do is never a reflection on us, no matter who they are. If there are children throwing a temper tantrum at the age of 2 or suffering from drug addiction at the age of 60, you know, whatever, it's not a reflection on us. Even if we are their parent, or even if we are their sibling or their child or their family member or whatever it is, it's not a reflection on us. And so letting go of that was so huge for me, so huge, just to let go of like that heaviness of like what other people do is a reflection of me. No, it's not. It's a reflection of them. The only thing that is a reflection of me is what I do. And I wasn't doing so well when I looked at myself through these new eyes and this new perspective. Before that, I thought, oh, everyone else is to blame. I'm perfect. Well, maybe not perfect, but I just didn't see my part in anything at all. And now all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I like this behavior that I've been engaging in for years and thinking it's normal and even being proud of it. Like when I was young, I used to be like, if my boyfriends did something that upset me, I would be very disrespectful, like just an ignorant person. Like, as an example, one of my boyfriends he said something that really pissed me off. And we were in a group of people and I smoked cigarettes back then. And I just looked at him and reached over and ashed my cigarette in his hair. And like at the time, I was actually proud of that. That's kind of like how I grew up, the kind of people I was around, the kind of environment I was in, the kind of just it was like you got respect the more ignorant you were in a way. It was just so stupid. Like it's hard for me to relate to now because I've thought so differently ever since 2004 when I found this book. But pre 2004, I had a very different way of looking at the world. I felt like I had to prove that I was tough. I had to watch out for all the con artists, and I just never show weakness. And I still really do believe in like the never show weakness thing. But I see weakness and vulnerability as two different things. But that's a whole other live stream. But yeah, so getting back to the whole thing is originally my mind shift, my paradigm shift was when I read that book, Wayne Dyer. So fast forward, and one of the things he talks about is self-talk. So how we talk to ourselves inside our heads. And for me, one of the things I always told myself was, why aren't people doing it the way I want them to do it? And what I started to do is I came up with a mantra in 2004. And the mantra was, I release myself from the obligation to control others. I release myself from the obligation to control others. And it did feel like an obligation. I realized that. And it was such a relief. And I had to like say that over and over. And at first I just kept doing what I always did. Like it didn't change. And then, but I'd catch myself, or I'd be able to look at myself after the fact and go, oh, I just did it again. And then I started catching myself while I was in the middle of doing it. And then I would stop. And then I started catching myself right before I did it. And then over time, I actually was able to give up a lot of my control over people and the circumstances of my life because I can't control them. But there were other, I still had a lot of growth to do, but that was big for me. So fast forward now, 2020, I believe it was, we're in COVID. And my daughter and I are getting out to the mall and we're going to go to the bookstore, and it's just crazy, like there's security guards everywhere and everyone's wearing masks and we're wearing masks and we have to go into the store, and we just wanted to go to the bookstore. We didn't want any confrontations, and we just wanted to go in, get our books and leave. So we went into the bookstore in the mall, and I was in a hurry because I can't stand the masks. Like I can't breathe in them, and they actually make me even like start to sweat, start to get like almost angry, like emotional, and I just can't keep them on for long. But my daughter, she had no problem with the mask, and she's just like staring at the books forever, and I decided I'm going to go get something I've never gotten before, and something I had a self-help book that I had never read before. Like the genre that I'd never really gotten into was money. And I thought to myself, I realized while I was in the bookstore, I was like, I really don't know anything about building wealth, or and I just spent a lot of years being sick and raising children and just surviving, and hadn't even thought like I should learn how to build wealth. So I go over to the self-help section of this bookstore, and I see two books there that I've heard of but I've never read, and I bought them both. They were on sale, and I think it cost me $20 for two books, and those two books were Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And Think and Grow Rich is actually, it's about money, but it's nothing like I expected it to be. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it taught me a lot. It taught me about passive income and cash flow, and that the goal is not to like just, save money and try to have a nest egg when we retire. The goal is to create money off of the money we make. So like to create passive income, like having a rental property or selling digital assets online, or even you could say like investments, because they compound interest and all of that. So that's passive income, right? So that's what Rich Dad, Poor Dad was about. And I expected Think and Grow Rich to be kind of like that, like to teach me about money. But what I didn't expect, and what really blew my mind about that book, is that it's actually a spiritual self-help book, similar to Wayne Dyer's book. And one of the most important things that it says in that book, it has a whole chapter that's called autosuggestion. And autosuggestion is just affirmations. Well, it's your self-talk. It's teaching yourself how to engage in the kind of self-talk that can change your life. So now you're probably starting to get an idea of where I'm going with my daily ritual. So I thought, okay, this is fascinating, and I want to try this. I want to see if this really works. And around that time, I also had been reading another book called The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. And it's an older spiritual book about God, really, and the Bible mostly. And she also talks about self-talk. Something she says is that in the Bible, and I don't know because I've only read a small part of the Bible, so this is all what she says. I'm just repeating. She says that in the Bible, God's name is I am. And God's name is I am. And when the Bible says do not use God's name in vain, or the Lord's name in vain, it doesn't mean by saying, Jesus Christ. It doesn't mean that. What it means is when you say I am, which is God's name, you don't say it in vain. Don't say something negative following the words I am, because you're throwing away an opportunity to be something positive. So every I am statement that you ever make, ever, should be positive. You should never say, God, I'm stupid. God, I'm idiot. And I do these things, did these things all the time, and still catch myself doing it sometimes. So it's not easy to stop yourself and to change the behavior, but to know the power of the words I am. That if you believe in God, which I do believe in God, and I'm not a Christian, but I believe that there is a God and that all these holy books do help bring us closer to God. And they have similar messages. And I feel like those are the messages we're supposed to pay attention to. But if you believe that the words I am could have God power behind them, then every time you say I am something, you're putting God power into that. And so you are becoming whatever you say you are. So I am stupid. I'm bad at math. I'm never going to get out of this, poverty level. Everything we say, I am. It's usually negative. At least it was for me until I learned this. We're putting power behind those words, a spiritual power that's fucking up our lives. And so I was like, okay, so in all these books, they say with affirmations and anything that has to do with the I am statements or saying something to retrain your mind about how you feel about yourself and how you feel about the world around you. And they say you have to say these things every single day. And there's different ways of doing it. One way is to identify all of your limiting beliefs, all of the things you think about yourself, like that you can't do this or you can't do that, or, for whatever reason. For instance, I, for a long time thought, I can't do this because I'm disabled. I can't do that because my kids are too young or whatever. I can't, and these are limiting beliefs, right? But to change your limiting beliefs into affirmations, I used to say all the time, I'm in pain. I'm in pain. And I've used this before when I shared this with you, and it makes no sense, but I'm in gain makes me think I'm going to make some money. And it just puts me on a positive mood rather than I'm in pain, reinforcing that I'm in pain. I'm in pain. Like, I imagine how much more pain have I been in because I've been repeating that to myself in my head over and over, So this is just like taking the limiting beliefs and turning them into positive affirmations. And I've been going on and on and on. So the point is that they all say you need to say it every day. So I'm going to share with you what I say every day to help me feel like I'm going to stop talking. I'm just going to tell you that when you hear these things, remember that I needed to say them to myself because I didn't believe them. Okay. And I have like a book that I have my affirmations in, and I'm not going to read them all because there's a lot, but I do read them. And basically they go like this: I am persistent. I am trustworthy. I am loving. I am ethical. I am energetic. I am creative. I am a critical thinker. I am unstoppable. I am beautiful. I am bold. I am accountable. I'm a strong example. I'm compassionate. I'm legendary. I am a wonder to behold. Okay, so it's things like this. I am wealthy. I am impactful. You know, I am professional. I'm grateful. So this is my list. It's quite long. I don't know. It's hard to see with my lights shining on it. So this is my affirmation list, and I don't have to say it out loud. I just say it in my head, but I just say I am, and I go through it all, and I say it every morning. I spend about 5 minutes going over my affirmations and my personal constitution. And my affirmations at first just sounded funny, a lot of them. Like, I just didn't think they were me. But now I actually feel so. I've had this one. So I am sober. It's at the bottom. I've had it on my on my list here for about 2 years, maybe even 3 years. And now I am just over a month and a bit sober. So even though you may not be the things that you're writing on your list, they're the things that you want to be. and the things you want to believe about yourself. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ava. Yes, you are. I'm so glad I can see my comments now. And now I actually really do. It might sound a little arrogant, but I believe all these things about myself. You know, the hardest one to get to was sober. A few of these things, like I think one of them is I am rich as fuck. I haven't quite made it there yet, but I a majority of these things, I actually truly believe that I am these things now because I've said it to myself so many times that I can't help but believe it. And that's how our subconscious works. It believes what you tell it. So if you tell it shitty shit all day, every day, you're going to have a shitty life. And if you tell it good shit, you're going to have a good life. So I just wanted to also share my personal constitution because this was something from Stephen Covey. He wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in his book, he talks about a personal constitution and how it can help you kind of like direct you in your life. And what I love about a personal constitution is that it tells you who you are. And I just talked about this, I think, in one of my blog posts recently about how when I first became disabled after my pharmaceutical injury, I didn't know who I was anymore because I defined myself by all of the things that I did. And I was energetic, and I was a volunteer at my kid's school, and I was a sex worker rights activist, and I was a person who always had a clean house, and person who was, you know, doing so much stuff for their kids and working hard and making a living and had goals. And that's how I defined myself. And then when all of that was taken away and I couldn't do any of it, and I could barely get through one house chore a day and barely take care of my children, and lost my job and lost my ability to dance and lost my volunteer positions and lost everything, you know? And I was like, who am I? I'm not that person that I was. Who am I? Like, and I thought, I mean, it has to be something that's not all of those things. It's who I am is who is still left when everything else is gone. And even then, I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out who am I? And it was just, I felt so lost. I felt so like without an identity. And it wasn't until I learned how to do a personal constitution that I began to know who I am. And a personal constitution is basically where you list your values that you have or that you want to have. And then you read it every day, like you do your affirmations, and you put it into practice in your life. So that'll be easier to understand after I read my personal constitution. So this was exactly how I wrote it the first time. I might have added a few things in the first like week or two, but I've never changed it since then. And this is my personal constitution. I let others be right. I keep my promises. I have hope and I preach hope. I help others advance in their goals. I do not take the emotional reactions of others personally. I forgive. I apologize when I hurt someone. I listen more than I speak. I make time for the people I love. I treat people with respect and dignity. I contribute to causes I believe in passionately. I love with all my heart. I make time for my loved ones. My love is unconditional. My boundaries are non-negotiable. I learn from my mistakes. I tell the truth. I stand up for others. I foster peace in my interactions. I embrace life gratefully and passionately. And the last one is, I live for today. And you might have noticed, or you might not have noticed, because I didn't notice it the first time I wrote it, but there was a value in there that I wrote twice. And that value was, I make time for the people I love. And then if you go down, I say, I make time for my loved ones. And so I put the same value twice without realizing it. And at the time, I really recognized it uh, as like a reflection of the fact that I really didn't feel like I was putting like making time for my kids and my family as much as I should. When I wrote that list, a lot of these values, I don't know if I really was living them. And that was one that I struggled with. And so when I started reading this list every day, and now even if I have a problem and I need to think about like, what should I do? I can pull out this list, and every single time, if I read through this list, my decision or what my path that I need to go in becomes really clear, because my values tell me exactly what I need to do. So your values tell you who you are, but they also give you a roadmap of how to handle situations and how to do better in your life. So the daily ritual that I do that costs nothing, that has changed my life forever, is the affirmations and the personal constitution. And you don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to look in the mirror. You don't have to do like all the weird things that make people feel silly. You can just do it in your head. And like, I smoke weed in the morning, and I like to smoke a joint and have a coffee and read my stuff and then start my day. And it does give me a lift. It puts me in the right frame of mind to go out and be the best person I can be in my day. I'm just going to quickly read these comments from Drew. Affirmations list is awesome. You do yours 3 times. Good for you. That's awesome. Oh, I like this. I'm going to have to read this more closely. Yes, never speak in the negative. That's so true. And like, we all catch ourselves doing it, right? I remember my ex-partner and I were talking about this one time about, let's try and go a whole week without complaining. I don't think I have ever made it. Like, to make it a whole day without complaining, that's crazy, you know? And Michael, yes, you do need to learn to say positive things about yourself. Yes, because that is probably the biggest problem we all have, is that we have brainwashed ourselves. We've told our subconscious that we're all these things that we're insecure about, and that we negative things we tell ourselves about ourselves. And our subconscious believes whatever we tell it. But the good news about that is we can reteach, relearn, retrain our subconscious. Yeah, exactly. Right, Ava? I'm so excited. We have 30 people watching tonight, and I've come almost to the end of my live stream. I wanted to do a half hour every Friday night at 7 p.m., and I really hope you all come back next week. And I just want to finish off with one other thing that I do every single day. And it's part of something that I call daily study and motivational buddies. This was one of my mantras that I came up with to remind myself of what I need to do. And what I need to do, daily study. So when I say daily study, I'm not talking about this. This is just my daily ritual. But my daily study is for a minimum of 10 minutes every single day. I listen to an audiobook or a podcast that is uplifting, or that I can learn from, that's motivational, something that makes me, become a better person. 10 minutes a day. So that's my daily study. And I swear to God, every time I stop, even if it's just for a few days, my head starts to go into a negative direction. Things start to become way more overwhelming, and I lose my momentum. So it's really important to me to do my daily study. And then the motivational buddies part of it is to not allow myself to spend a lot of time with people who are negative. And it's not that I don't love people who are negative, or that I don't want to be there for them, or I don't want to be in their lives, but I'm just very sensitive to negativity. And especially with my health issues, it just really affects me and impacts me. And so I actually make it a real, like, what's the word? Initiative, incentive, decision. No, that's not the word. But anyway, goal to try, that's the word. I make it a goal to try and have motivational people around me. And so, I mean, I don't even hang around with people very much, but the people that I really love to be around with more than others are the ones that are very uplifting, like to talk highly of other people, just want to lift everyone up around them. Those are my people. That's who I am. And I just feel like when I'm around people who are really down and low energy and just sad and depressed, or always upset over something, it totally impacts me and it brings me down and it affects my health even. So for me, daily study helps to keep me up. Motivational buddies help to keep me up. Life is always going to have shit that'll bring you down. There's always going to be people around us who are complaining, including ourselves. And the only way to kind of just maintain a really good frame of mind for myself is to do these things: my daily ritual, my daily study, and my motivational buddies. And many of you who are watching are probably some of those motivational buddies that send me your beautiful, wonderful, sweet, encouraging messages and share my posts. And Ava's on here being so sweet. Ava helped me build my Twitter, like just took me under her wing for, no reason, just was so kind to me when I got on Twitter/X. And I just feel like that's the kind of world I want to live in, is where we're all lifting each other up. So I really hope that today's live has inspired, motivated, or given you something that you can take away and think about it, and maybe it will have an impact on your life in a good way. If you want to reach out and talk about anything that I talked about today, send me a message, send me an email. I really appreciate feedback. If you have ideas for topics on future live streams, let me know. Otherwise, I will be back here next Friday at 7 p.m. Yes, comedy movies. I'm going to show that one. Drew says, oh, look at that. Drew says one thing he did when he's not feeling great is watch comedy movies. 100%. I do that too. I have to shut off like movies that are too stressful, because I'm like, this isn't fun for me. So no, I don't want to watch a scary movie. All right. I love you guys.